Holla ballers, what's going on? It's Preacher, and yeah, I'm doing a lot of healing this week. There's a chance if I roll with a Paladin in Wells of Draenor that at some point I might get asked to heal. I'm trying to make my peace with the spec. I've kind of come to the conclusion, though, healing is not for me in this Pandaria. I just don't have the vested interest to try and compete with the spam ability. It's just not there for me, but still we're giving it a go. Today's questions, as I checked the inbox, came in from, first one from Connor. A few months ago, whilst leveling a lock, I joined a guild. I got into 90 and then a paladin. And then I saw they were starting a raid team. And after having long conversations with the guild master about what class they look for, he accepted me as Ret Deeps. Hype. Now my question is, should I stay? He told me that I was promised a position in the raid team. Which gives me the idea that he can't really find any players to join. Yeah, promises, 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 promises. Got to understand that the guys who are starting their new super guild, I don't mean to sound too condescending here, but the problem with these new guilds that spring up all over the place is you have no basis to judge a goddamn thing on them. There is a chance. There is always a chance that someone making this team is deadly serious about it and is experienced and is just looking for a new challenge and knows what he's looking for in a player and perhaps even recognizes something in you that he can do something with you. And you know, he wants to rep Paladin, he's seen some of the Walls of Draenor changes. The chances of that are infinitesimally low. Unfortunately, the way the game is right now, you're more than likely to be talking to a guy who rage quit his previous raid team or literally was so bad he didn't get picked and now he's going to put his new 10-man together. And any chance of grabbing a player, he will promise you the earth. How many times have we seen on Drama Friday? Officer spots going within a week. You're guaranteed. If you've just capped a character, what kind of raid team is that? You've got to understand that's the perspective. It doesn't matter if you're great. It's nothing to do with whether or not you're a capable player. But if you've literally just capped and his long conversations are about what exactly? I don't know. I don't know. But anybody who's just capped and is promised and guaranteed things straight away, I'm instantly wary of that guild. I'm very wary of that guild. It's unlikely to be the dream come true, isn't it? But everybody wants a guaranteed raid spot. So the temptation is always there. I want the guaranteed raid spot. I like the idea that if I stay, I get to raid. That might be true. But at what level? What level of raiding? What level of raiding do you expect? Do you expect a guild that does the Stone Guard problem? How many guilds started at the beginning of Mr. Pandaria, walked into the Mogasham Vaults, and the Stone Guard literally kicked their ass? Because they just weren't ready for raiding in general. That's the problem. It's not that the fight is too hard. I can tell you on the beta, we smashed that fight to bits on its first pull. On live, same thing. It's not a very difficult fight, but many guilds struggled on that and guilds fell apart at the Stone Guard. What level of raid is this? A level of raid that's accepting people who've just capped, for one, with no prior knowledge, no prior experience, and it's difficult to say. He did mention that he will be gearing up some of us in Flex, which could be a bad sign as we've been doing Flex raids for a while. Of course it is. Of course that's a bad sign. It's a terrible sign. Run for your fucking life. I would. I really would. But that's me personally. Obviously, I can't really attest to your level of play. It's all up to you. When people ask me, I want to join a guild, the most common problem is the same thing that most people have, is they want to instantly jump into the best guild in the world. I am fully prepared. I believe I am good enough to go and do heroics instantaneously, having never done a heroic before. Having never experienced that kind of content. I can tell you after years of doing heroics that you do become of the mindset that that is the only kind of content that you will ever enjoy again. It's kind of sad in a way. The only kind of content I personally enjoy is heroic content, and even then some of those fights are garbage. Absolute garbage. But what level of raiding are you at? Should you stay? If you want my honest opinion, absolutely frigging not. I am terrified of any guild that's instantly recruiting capped characters fresh off the boat, essentially. As soon as you have arrived, then you're in the raid spot and you have a guaranteed raid spot based on your flex performance. And it's like, yeah, I don't actually think your requirements are stringent enough to possibly form a good guild. That's kind of the only message I'll leave with you. If the guild requirements to get in are very flexible, very lackadaisical, and very easy, then you're going to attract a lot of people who have absolutely no interest in getting better at the game. And that's just a sad fact. A lot of people just have no interest. If you want proof, go and do Durumuru in the Throne of Thunder and watch us still. Nearly a year that fight's been out, right? Something like that. And watch as 24 people hit the deck and you stood there all alone. Happened to me today. Totally still going on. Just be a little bit careful. Strict rules on a guild is actually a pretty good sign. Next one came in from Herod. Hey, Rod. I can't pronounce that name. It's crazy. So I've been reading through the new WoD Levelling Perks from 90 to 100. Listening to YouTubers like yourself talk about them, reading some articles, and I feel like something is off about these new perks. And it hits me. Are these new perks fake bonuses just to give us something to pat ourselves on the back for dinging? Goes on to put that into some more detail. But that's essentially the crux of it. Absolutely. And Blizzard is quite open about that. They're just perks for while you're leveling. They're giving you an exciting thing that happens while you ding. It will alter your rotation ever so slightly, shift your priorities ever so slightly, but it's essentially just bumping you up to what your level 100 rotation and priority system will be. Nothing more, nothing less. A lot of people trying desperately to read into things with the notes that are coming out for Warlords of Draenor, when sometimes just ignoring what Blizzard's telling you. Blizzard is not hiding the fact that the perks are that. They're just perks. They're giving you something to look forward to while leveling. What they don't want is people looking to go and do, I don't know, 10 mega levels, like we're likely to see in Warlords of Draenor. Pretty fucking big levels, especially towards the end there, and not getting much reward in the way. I agree, the perks are really boring. People are like, dude, 20% damage increase. Well, yeah, but it's just after a stat squish, and also it's just based around what our DPS will be at level 100. If you look at it too clinically, which I do sometimes, I've got to be honest, sometimes I look at this stuff and I go, yeah. In fact, often when I see a percentage, I get bored with the answer. I get bored with what it is. Oh, it does blah percentage of stuff. And I go, oh, well, I blah care about stuff, really do. Because everybody's getting it. Every single class in the game is, literally every class is getting something very similar, therefore it all kind of balances out, and ultimately it's all balanced out at level 100 anyway. So the fact that I just got 20% increased deeps on my one spell don't mean a whole lot to me, unfortunately. But I'm kind of an old fogey on that stuff. Sure, it's nice to ding and suddenly your Sinister Strike or whatever it might be is now hitting 20% harder. It's fine, right? Is it mega fun? Not really. You're going to enjoy it for what? 2 mobs, and then it's just the damage that you do? That's my kind of real pessimistic look at this whole thing, which it shouldn't be. I mean, getting big damage bonuses is always quite nice, and as soon as you pick... I mean, let me put it in this context. I'm the guy who didn't bother picking up the potions while doing things on the... not the Timeless Isle, the Thunder Isle. Because I just don't care. I really don't care. I'll pick it up on the way. I'm not going to ride around for an hour and pick up my Chi buff from the Timeless Isle. I'm just going to go there, get what I want, and leave. But it's nice. It's something. What could they have given us elsewhere? They could have just not given us anything, in which case the process is very, very lackluster. So there is something truly glorious about dinging. And a little bit of a bonus that goes with that, I'm fine with it. Am I over the moon excited about it? Something that we need to be looking at and discussing? Nah. Because at the end of the day, at level 100, it's all going to balance itself out anyway, and it makes no difference. But is it something that's just going to be a nice little cream on top of actually getting another level and getting one step closer to level 100? Sure, it's fine. It's not something to be worried about and not something to be overly concerned about, though, I don't think. Last one for today came from Adam. I feel Blizz may need to rethink about the changes they made for WoD, or planning on making. I'm currently maining a lock and mainly play as Affliction. The current info we get for WoD does not look bright for the game as its current stage. For the removing of the now called Snapshot mechanic, was always called that, by the way. That was a nice bonus for some classes and spec they could use for minor DPS increases, like Shamans using haste bonuses on Flame Shot for increased chance of Lava Surge, and the enhancements 4p bonus for extra cards and reset. Removing this, it drops the skill ceiling. Yeah. You're not wrong. Removing it absolutely drops the skill ceiling. There's no doubt about that whatsoever, and I would never argue that it does. But, there is a problem. And it's a problem that I kind of... If you ask me in two minds, one, Preacher who runs this channel, it's not a good thing. If you were to ask Preacher who likes to raid, it was a good thing. Snapshotting was great because I could handle it. And if you can handle snapshotting and you know exactly how it works intricately, you can do not minor DPS increases, as you say, or a nice bonus, significant DPS increases, to the point where, especially with Affliction Warlocks, as you play, that your DPS difference, if you know how to snapshot properly, is insanely different to a guy who doesn't really understand it or even gets it minorly wrong. And when I say minorly wrong, I've seen many, many players. In fact, I would recommend you go and check out Sparkugs, who did a workshop on a heroic Affliction Warlock who was making these same mistakes. Just because you're doing heroic content, in fact, there's a lot of people doing heroic content right now who aren't au fait with these things. And it's only the very, very top players in the world who really grasp this. Perhaps you don't really grasp it as well either. It's entirely possible that your understanding of how it works isn't quite right either. There are lots of very tiny mechanical intricacies that go on in World of Warcraft that yield all these little DPS increases, and when you're good enough to add them all together, your DPS is insanely different to someone of equal gear. Now, as somebody who strives to perfect that stuff when I'm maining a class and strives to get every single ounce out of my character, I personally love it, and I'm with you. I'm with you. Learning about my snapshots, watching my procs, and all that kind of stuff is something I love when I'm invested in a character. Once I've got the nitty-gritty out of the way of the learning the rotation and my fingers are basically doing the work, after that I'm just in a constant stage of flux during the fight of watching what's happening with the fight, what's coming up in the next few seconds, how can I line up my procs, how can I line up my spells, what resources do I need, and then making them work all together, and at the end saying, I got a world first out of that, or I got very close, or I know where I made a mistake, I know what I have to work on. The problem is a lot of players believe they're at that stage when they aren't, and new players don't stand a fucking chance. Is it wrong, is the question I'll put to you about the snapshotting thing. Is it wrong that a player who perhaps joins the game is going to be a good player, or isn't, doesn't matter, but then learns about what his class does? He reads things like Soul Swap, and it works alongside with Soul Burn. And he goes, oh, that applies all my dots. Cool. And then he starts playing it because that's the information he's been given by Blizzard of how that spell works. Oh, I can put my dots on instantaneously using a Soul Burn, Soul Swap, or whatever. Is it fair, or is it right, that by doing so, and what the game is following the instructions given to him by reading tooltips, which, remember guys, is way ahead of most people, is actually reading the tooltips, is it wrong that he's going to have considerably worse DPS than someone equally geared as him because he simply followed the instructions on the screen and didn't go to outside resources in order to find out the little intricacies and start working on them? I don't think that is right. I don't. As somebody who wants people to enjoy the content, get better, and eventually be au fait and comfortable with their classes, and then push them towards actually getting the bosses down, which I think is more important than anything. More important than anybody's SCADA reading or their World of Logs report is whether or not they're actually getting through content. I don't think that is right. As a personal player, I don't mind because I can deal with it and it's fine. I don't find it a problem. I'm happy to watch my procs. I personally enjoy it. But as somebody who wants the game to grow and thrive and not lose players, I don't think it's particularly fair that by doing what he's told to do, that he's actually doing it incorrectly. More to the point, he's doing it wrong. We're talking about something that shouldn't really be a huge aspect of the game. Snapshotting in particular is always something I've had a bit of a problem with because as somebody who occasionally plays dot classes and has done over the many years, I never liked having to refresh my dots or manage those timers before they were running out because it's an unnatural occurrence is to be like, oh, I just casted this dot, but guess what? I got all these procs. Now I have to start recasting them again. What I want to be focusing on is things like, okay, my dots are up, now I can be doing damage, I can be watching what's going on in the fight, and I can make decisions based on that around my character. Again, that's my preference. That's how I prefer to play, is if I'm doing things correctly in terms of keeping my dots on, and covering all those bases as the class was designed, then I'm quite happy for it to just be auto-updating. As somebody who wants to push really hard for World Firsts in my own personal DPS, I like any advantage I can get, and if that means that I can learn how to snapshot perfectly, then so be it. But I'm happy for a lot of players, and even those, as I said earlier, up to the heroic level, who maybe believe they're doing it right, but aren't, and probably don't appreciate the kind of difference you can get if you do correct snapshotting, especially within an Affliction Warlock. There's so many aspects and levels to that, especially with the proc availability in Mists of Pandaria, which got way out of hands, especially for Affliction Warlocks, then no, I'm fine with it. I'm really fine with it, because there's so much going on with characters now that is almost completely out of your control, that it's okay that the game is going to say, you know what, this is kind of getting stupid now. What I'd rather do is you can have all these bonuses and fun things going on with your character, but it's not really going to cause you to keep refreshing dots that you don't particularly want to do. It is easier. There's no doubt about that. It's going to be easier. But I think after probably a couple of days, I think a lot of Affliction Warlocks are going to be okay with it. They're going to be a little bit okay with it. Like, yeah, this is alright. This is okay. I'm fine with it. I can just get on with the game. And perhaps it'll even open up you to perform better in other aspects of the game, such as your position, movement, all the things that I really try and teach into people. Is these are the really important things. Okay? Don't just focus on your damage meter. Focus on getting the bosses down. Focus on reducing your damage taken. Focus on maintaining solid DPS while performing well. If it gives people a broader scope to invest in those kind of things, I'm more than fine with it. I think it's okay. Alright guys, that's me done for today. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.